It is 4 in the afternoon and your body is already asking for a break you have not given it. Not the kind of tired that comes from doing something visible. Not the kind that others recognize or validate, but a deeper, quieter exhaustion that builds in the background while you keep functioning. You woke up ready, or at least willing. You moved through your morning. You handled what needed to be handled. You responded to people. You adjusted to situations. You absorbed more than you realized. And somewhere along the way, something inside, you started to fill up. Not with energy, but with pressure. Every conversation required you to read between the lines. Every tone carried meaning. Every shift in the room pulled your attention. Every piece of information asked to be processed, and your system did what it has always done. It took it all in. And now here you are, still sitting, still working, still appearing fine, but internally something is overloaded. Your thoughts feel slower, but your nerves feel faster. There is a low hum inside you, like a current that will not turn off. You feel irritable, but you cannot point to a clear reason. You feel the urge to step away, to be alone, to have a moment where nothing is required from you. And what makes it heavier is that you already know exactly what you need. You need to pause. You need to reset. You need space that is quiet enough for your system to breathe again. But you cannot take it. There are still things waiting for you, responsibilities, expectations, time that keeps moving forward, whether you are ready or not. So you do what you have always done. You keep going. You push a little further. You ignore the signal. And with each passing minute, the weight becomes harder to carry. If you recognize yourself in this, then what you are experiencing is not a personal failure. It is not weakness, and it is not lack of discipline. It is a nervous system that has reached its limit without being given a way to recover. There is something important that most people are never taught about how the body works. Your system is constantly scanning, asking a simple question again and again. Am I safe or am I not? And it answers that question using everything it perceives, not just obvious danger, but emotional tone, social interaction, internal thoughts, environmental noise, and subtle signals that never reach conscious awareness. When something feels intense, unpredictable, or overwhelming, your system shifts into a state of activation. This state is designed to help you respond. It sharpens your attention, increases your alertness, prepares your body to act. But it was never meant to last all day. Because your system also has another state, one that is just as important. A state of restoration. This is where your body repairs, where your mind processes, where balance returns. The problem is not that you enter activation. The problem is that you stay there. Because no one showed you how to come back down. So activation accumulates. A tense moment adds one layer. A difficult interaction adds another. A noisy environment, another. A stressful thought, another. And none of it is released. It simply stays in your system building quietly until it reaches a point where you feel both exhausted and overstimulated at the same time. That is why you feel drained and restless in the same moment. That is why your mind feels tired, but your body cannot relax. Here is the part that changes everything. You do not need to escape your entire life to recover. You need to learn how to reset in small, intentional moments. Moments that take minutes but create space inside your system. Moments that tell your body something it has been waiting to hear. You are safe now. You can let go. The first reset begins with something you have been doing your entire life without thinking. Your breath, but this time use it differently. Not fast, not forced, not dramatic. You inhale slowly through your nose, allowing your abdomen to expand naturally. You pause briefly. Then you exhale longer than you inhaled, soft and steady. And you repeat. At first, it may feel too simple to matter. But your body understands immediately. Your heart begins to slow. Your muscles begin to soften. The tension you are holding without noticing starts to release. Because your nervous system recognizes the signal, there is no immediate danger. You can shift out of activation. The second reset is about reducing the noise inside your awareness. When your system is overloaded, your attention is scattered across too many things at once. Past conversations, future worries, imagined outcomes, unresolved thoughts, and constant external input. So instead of trying to organize everything, you narrow your focus. You bring your attention to what is directly in front of you. The light on a surface, the texture beneath your fingers, a sound that repeats steadily. You are not analyzing, you are noticing. And slowly your awareness returns to the present moment. Not because you forced it, but because you gave it something simple and stable. This creates space. And space is what your system needs to begin settling. The third reset is movement. Because stress is not only something you think, it is something you carry physically. It is energy stored in your muscles, in your posture, in your breath. When that energy has nowhere to go, it becomes tension, restlessness, a sense of pressure that builds without release. So instead of trying to calm down immediately, you move. You stand up, you stretch your arms, you let your body shift. You release the tension through motion. It may feel unnecessary or even strange, but your body responds quickly because movement completes the stress response. It tells your system that the moment has passed. You are no longer in it. You can let go. The fourth reset happens internally through imagination. Your brain does not fully distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. So if you cannot physically leave your environment, you can still create a sense of safety within. You close your eyes or soften your focus and imagine a place where you feel calm, not perfect, just familiar. A place where your body does not feel on edge. You notice the details, the light, the space, the feeling of being there. And as you stay with that image, your system begins to shift. Your breathing slows, your tension softens, your internal state becomes less urgent. Because your brain responds to the perception of safety even when it is created internally. The fifth reset is grounding. It is simple, direct, and often overlooked. You bring your attention back to your body, to the weight of it, to the contact between your feet and the ground, to the fact that in this exact moment, you are here and you are physically safe. You do not try to change anything. You do not force a different feeling. You simply recognize what is true. And that recognition stabilizes your system. It gives your mind something solid to return to when everything else feels uncertain. All of these resets share something important. They require you to pause, and that is the hardest part, because you have learned to keep going no matter what, to push through discomfort, to ignore signals, to wait until something becomes urgent before you allow yourself to stop. But every time you ignore your system, you teach it that its signals do not matter. And eventually, it stops asking quietly. It begins to demand attention through anxiety, through exhaustion, through physical symptoms that are impossible to ignore. Your body does not fail you. It becomes louder when you do not listen. So the real change is not just learning these techniques. It is giving yourself permission to use them without guilt, without needing a reason that others would approve, without explaining yourself. Because taking care of your nervous system is not a luxury. It is maintenance. It is something your body requires to function. And if you process the world deeply, you will need it more often, not less. That is not weakness. That is simply how your system is designed. When you begin to do this consistently, something begins to shift. Not dramatically, not all at once, but noticeably. You feel less overwhelmed by things that used to drain you. You recognize tension earlier before it becomes too much. You create small moments of recovery instead of waiting until you collapse. And slowly, your relationship with yourself changes. You stop seeing your sensitivity as something to fix. You start seeing it as something to support. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to apply every method every time. You only need to begin. One pause during your day. One moment where you choose to listen instead of push. One decision to support your system instead of ignore it. Because those moments accumulate, just like stress accumulates, but in the opposite direction. They build stability, they build trust. They teach your body that it does not need to reach a breaking point to be heard. So the next time you feel that familiar exhaustion building in the middle of your day, pause, not because everything is falling apart, but because you recognize the signal, because you understand what your body is asking for, and because you know now that even a few minutes can change how you feel. You do not need to escape your life to recover. You only need to learn how to return to yourself. And once you do, everything becomes a little quieter, a little lighter, a little more manageable. Not perfect, not effortless, but possible. And sometimes possible is exactly what you need to keep going without losing yourself along the way.